Fuck. You're kidding me. Good evening for the first time. This is going to be an attempt at vlogging, so I apologise if it's not up to your standards. Anyway, what we're going to do today is do some preparation work on the caravan for an upcoming trip. We're going to the Northern Territory for 3 weeks and we want to make sure that it's in tip-top shape and ready to go. So really it's a bit of a grease and an oil, as well as a bit of a check out inside to make sure there's no mold or anything strange going on. Also, all of the hinges, latches, anything that opens and closes and needs oiling is going to get oiled. Now, some of you may hate me, but Lanox, it's the only thing I'm going to use. Yes, it sticks and it accumulates dust, but it doesn't matter because wherever that oil is, it's going to protect it, so should be good to go. So the first place we're going to be starting is here on the hitch. We've got a location here that we need to grease and keep that nice and lubricated. DO35 hitch, which everyone knows. But how many people take care of? That's the question. Oh. My grease gun handy. First thing you want to do is you don't want to get any dirt inside the grease nipple, so do your best to clean around it and make sure there is no debris, because the last thing you want to do is stick the grease gun on there and inject all of that dust straight into that moving part. Get it on there. There's a bit of grease on the top here, and that's what we're going to be watching for. So, as soon as a bit of fresh grease comes out, there we go. So, you can't see that, but let me grab the camera for you. Just quickly, you can see on there, there's a bit of white foam coming out. But now, there's a bit of grease, and that's what we want to see. Is that nice fresh grease there? Because that fresh grease shows that this is now all fully lubricated. So that's the DO35 taken care of. And now we move on underneath the caravan. So let's have a go at that. The next bit we've got is this arc jockey wheel. So we've got a grease nipple up at the top there. I don't think we've got one underneath. So what we want to do is the same trick here. Is get that one nice and lubricated. Nice and greased, same deal as before. Make sure to get a rag and clean up that nipple before you stick the grease gun on there. Give that a few pumps. There we go, take that off. Job done, jockey wheel greased. The fun part begins. The shock absorbers, well, trailing arms, whatever you want to call them. Let's get in under, get started. Now, this is an easy trail. It has 2 nipples on the front of the trailing arms, and those 2 nipples are the grease point. Now, the little rubber boots, they do not stay on there very well. So, these are very, very, for the lack of a better word, very dirty. So, nice and clean. No dirt on those anymore. And let's again come in there. And we're once again looking for the edges of where the trailing arms are, where they meet the shackles. And we want to see grease coming out of those. So we just wait a little bit. Nothing around the top. Fuck. You're kidding me. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I did, didn't I? Okay. Well, there is one symptom of cheap caravans, or cheap Chinese caravans, is the nipple has now snapped out while trying to remove the grease gun. And there begins the fun part. First of all, we have to get the nipple out, which is, when it's not fixed, that's fun. So we'll stop the recording here and I'll start it up again when it's time to fix it. Alright, so a real quick update. Grease nipple has been recovered. Alright, and now, just going to put that back in place. Which is directly up under there. Alright, and when you do this, it's still clean. You just want to get it started in there and make sure that we don't cross thread it, even though the thread's a little bit damaged. And actually, we'll see whether or not that will actually take. No. Alright, so there we go. We don't want to thread it. Very light touch up. And then check to make sure that it's nice and square, which it is. Oh, so that's basically as good as we're going to get that with the grease that's in there. Put the cap on, and that doesn't actually stay on there. I might have to get some rubberized grease nipple covers. I may even buy some spare grease nipples as well, just for the trip, because the last thing you want is for one of these to snap off and get grease all the way through. So before we do this one now, the next one next to it, let's just give that a quick little test. Yeah, that's tight. So we shouldn't have a repeat of last time. Once again, get the grease gun up on there. And all right, there we go. It's a little bit there. And this time I'm going to loosen it off instead of ripping it off, which will help prevent a repeat of just before. And again, little boots, they sit over it, but they do not in any way stick to it. All right, let's take you around the other side. Now, as we come under here, same deal as before. Give the nipple a good wipe down. And of course, while you're under here, it's really important to keep an eye on things. Check for anything that's loose, corroded, damaged, or otherwise not in the best shape. Because the last thing you want is for something to go wrong here. Because on a big trip, especially out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to get help in a great hurry. Alright, so I just tighten that up a little bit so it doesn't pop. Get it on there. And keep an eye out. Alright, that's it. There we go. Wipe those down. It's nice and clean. No point, but do it anyway. The next bit of maintenance for the caravan is an important piece when you've got batteries on board, and that is charging the batteries. So when we built the house, knew we were going to get a van in the end, so we got a 30 amp plug installed, which is perfect for a caravan, but it was mainly for welding. Anyway, that goes in there, and of course that goes in there. So with that alive, you can't quite see the light, but it's on. We want to come around, open up the van. Yeah, it hasn't been washed since its last trip. It got over it, so did I. And we want to go main switch on, because we want the van and the battery system to wake up. %91 battery at the moment. All the tanks are clean and emptied. We do that every trip as soon as we get home. But we just turned the load on for a little bit. So that way the solar's alive as well. And that's that. Now, one piece of maintenance that I want to do is this clear cover. At night, these LEDs here are incredibly bright. So I'm going to be unscrewing that carefully and removing this plastic, and I'm going to be applying a film. So I'll be doing that shortly. But let's begin by having a quick look in the van and make sure none of the windows have been left open. There's no mold. Sinks there, TV. Everything looks good. Now the fridge will auto turn on, and I want it off. So turn that off. All right, here we go. That's the fridge off, because we don't want that running while we're doing some maintenance. And more importantly, I don't want that running with the door open while the battery is charging, cycling, and doing its bit. Otherwise, it's looking good inside. Doesn't look like there's any problems at all to deal with. Looks all good. Looks all good. All right. That's it for inside at the moment. All right. Next bit of work that I want to get done is to tackle that glass, or sorry, perspex, plastic, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Let's get that off first. So, just come in with a screwdriver. I use a, grub screws to hold it in place against the back. So we do all of them bar one. Put them down there. And then as we loosen the last one off, just press against the glass so it doesn't collapse. And that is ready to remove. Do not lose all the little rubber screws. So what they are is a little plastic or rubber insert that goes inside each of the grub screws, and it's got a little rubber backing to it, so that way it doesn't have metal screwing directly into the perspex, which, as you can imagine, could cause cracking and all sorts of problems. So they're all secure and safe. I've got my perspex. Now, it is a textured surface on both sides, so I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're about to see. As far as the door goes on and swings open like this. We don't want to put the film on the outside, we want to put it on the inside. So Step one is to remove the magnetic latch, which of course has little nuts like that. There was a washer I just heard. No. Yep, there it is. Put that up there with that. And then the same for the other side. That is out of the way. Now, the actual handle itself, we don't have to worry too much about where these holes are, because even though the film will cover it up, it will be just as easy to poke those screws through those holes while the film's on there. Now, while it's like that, this is the film that I use. I use it for all the aquariums, and it's mainly to give some blackout so the fish in the aquarium can't see the glass through the back. Also helps make the colours pop, you know, usual story. So, pull the film out. You don't want to waste too much of it, but it's inevitable. You can't help it. You take the tape off holding the film in place, like that. That's ready to go. And what we do is we want to make it slightly larger without wasting it. It's all good there. That's all good there. And then I want to come into the back here and cut that out. And there we go. Put that one back in the box because it's nice and tight. Don't need the tape this time. And keep that to the side. Now this film, it is self-adhesive. When you're actually doing the adherence, you just want to get it nice and clean. So instead of being too dramatic, this stuff here is some Johnson's odorless baby shampoo, and it is ideal for both helping place this in its final resting place, as well as giving the glass a bit of a clean. Plastic, I keep calling it glass, it doesn't matter what it's called. So we just give it a quick spray, like that. Bit of a quick rub, like that. And I will get a cloth to finish that off. Actually, I just like to... It might seem silly I'm not using a cloth straight away. In fact, instead I'm using my fingernails, because what I'm doing is I'm looking for imperfections, like, you know, bits of dust and things that may actually be sticking to the plastic, and my nails help pick those up and remove them, so I know that it's nice and clean. Alright, so now that that's done, I just come in using a cleaning cloth and just make sure I don't have to dry it, because I'm just going to be applying that same fluid again. I just want to make sure there's no particles, dust or otherwise, that are going to create spots where it won't adhere. I think that's pretty good, actually. Alright, so now comes the fun part. And what I mean by that is we need to get this film peeled and started. It doesn't actually matter if I start here, there, middle, wherever, it doesn't matter. But what matters is, once we start applying this, there's no coming back. And you can see there's a little white edge, which makes it easy to get it started, which I want to do. And we're almost there. Alright, there we go. I'm not going to be worried too much about that corner, so I'll just fold it over to make it easier to peel. Alright, so liberally apply the film, the fluid, detergent. You know what I'm talking about. I don't need to worry too much about that. And now, we want to get the peel started. I've got a little bit of flexibility at the back, but not a great deal. So what we want to do, I hate this bit, but it's very necessary. What we want to do is get that at least hovered over to help me roll it out and peel it. That one there, that one there, that one there. Because while the adhesive is wet with the detergent, it won't fold back and stick. Hold it there, and it's easy with two hands, but I don't have two hands free. Let's put that up there for a second. That's there, and that's there. So that's one piece, that's the other piece, and all we're worried about is making sure that all the plastic is covered, which it is. So there are a lot of air bubbles, so all I'm doing is using this cloth to rub those out from under the plastic, and you can leave you there. The adhesive over here is going to help keep that film tightened down, because what we want to do is have... Now, I have to stress, I haven't actually used this film on that plastic before, so I'm not even certain that it's going to adhere. But it is what it is, and we've got to try. So let's leave that there and then give it time to dry. There's not much more to it than that. And when we come back, once it's dry, is we'll use the knife to trim that out. The next step in the maintenance, while we're waiting for the film to dry, is to run around and unlock all of the padlocks, if I can do that one-handed, like that. And we're going to collect those together on the front here, on the drawbar. Get that on the front there. Any more? None up there. And I don't think I worried too much about down the back here, but let's have a look. No locks on those. All right, next step is to go around and make sure all these latches are open. So, there we go. I'll go around there shortly. I don't want to duck under. Come around this side. We have, they're both unlocked. They're both unlocked. And they're both unlocked. The toilet is also unlocked. And last but not least, I'm not worried about that one. All right, now that we've unlocked everything, it's time to lubricate. Again, I use Lanox. Some may hate it. I'm not too worried, to be perfectly honest. When it comes to locks and latches, hinges, and the weather, you cannot beat this stuff. Especially for padlocks out in the rain, so which is where these ones live. So all we need to do is, from the top, give it a quick spray just to get the Lanox on those ones. We also want to get a little bit of Lanox on in there. Again, anything that's exposed and could be rusty, give that a bit of a spray. That's really it. On the front here is the main problem. I don't want to get any on those cables there because I don't want to get Lanox too... Actually, no, I do. Stuff it. Give that a good spray as well. All right, next step is all of these. Give them a good spray. As you can tell, I'm not too worried about the paint. Lanox isn't going to hurt it. And then we get up onto these hinges. On the way past, I want to turn the keys padlocks on their end. I really apologise for my videography. I am not a cameraman at all. Now, you can see that that hinge is a little bit skew-if. That's because of this rubber stopper. Because when the door flops down, if you don't catch it in time, it bounces on that stopper and we have a bad time. Now, driving in the dust, where I've sprayed Lanox, it is 100% going to accumulate dust and it's going to look absolutely terrible. Now, some will argue that's good, bad, or otherwise, but in all honesty, it just comes down to, last but not least, let's go down the back and we have these locks here. Now to get into those, we have to fully open the back up. So bear with me while I do that. That latch, and what we want to do while we're here, give that a good spray. We're done with the Lanox and the lubricant. There's a little bit of rust there, so I'm just going to add a little bit of spray there. Alright, so I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to stick properly because the textured plastic. So it's a little bit annoying because I really wanted this to just stay there, but looking at these edges, I'm not sure it will. So what we might do is we'll use the knife here very carefully. Very carefully. We want to skim around the edges there and come back here. Once again, skim around the edges there. So that gives us a nice hard edge there. Next, we want to get that edge off. So once again, not too worried about these edges here. That's okay, that's good. Get that edge off there. I want to be careful not to lift it too far off there. And then come in there. Which, as is ever the case, it's very hard to get it precise. Much easier on the glass because the knife cuts against the glass very easily, whereas this plastic you can dig in. The main objective though is to ensure that we don't have any lifted surfaces here. Now, because I did the film myself, there's a few marks and things. I honestly am not too worried about any of that. I only care about it sticking down. So we'll leave that now to fully cure, which is going to take a couple of hours or so. So I'll put that away and wait for it to cure up. Alrighty, so now that this is done enough, we are going to screw it back into place, which is as simple as sitting down here, getting one of these, we'll just get it started. And we'll have it latched in place. That is centered. That's centered. Rubber stopper on there. Get that started. And once these are all in and started, we can screw it home. And that will be that. All right. All the screws are in. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Don't want to over tighten it, you don't want to be loose. That's tight, and that's tight. That's tight. That's tight. And that's tight. And there we have it, blacked out cover so that the lights aren't too bright at night. Perfect. And that's it. Van maintenance all complete. Leave the main switch on while we do the batteries, and that's the end. Enjoy.